It's the ever-familiar fungi folk, the toads. This is the species of toadstool people which comprise majority of the mainstay residents of the Mushroom Kingdom, despite their monarch not being a mushroom, but a human. They may be a breed of living mushrooms, but honestly, that's really the most abnormal thing about the toads. They're still pretty much just normal people. They have jobs, go to school, run their own societies, of which is really not too much different from ours. It just has more mushrooms. But we're not covering just any toad today. We're covering the toad, aptly named Toad. Okay, you know his parents spent a lot of time deliberating over that one. Then again, considering that the majority of toad names usually end up having the word toad in them anyways, I suppose it's not really that out of the norm for their culture. But regardless, Toad has made a name for himself in not just video game history, but Super Smash Bros. History as well. All the way back since Melee as Peach's meat shield. Or I guess shroom shield in this case. But hey, the Toads absolutely adore Princess Toadstool, despite her not even being a real toadstool, and will go to the ends of the world for her. Most of the time, they are pretty cowardly. But not all of them are, and Toad, as well as some others of his kind, have proven themselves time and time again. And now, I think it's time to see how Toad would fare on his own without the princess there for him to guard. For one thing when coming to Smash, I think that it only makes sense that Toad's most defined features should be emphasized into his playstyle. By which I mean that he should be really fast. Maybe not the fastest character in the roster, but definitely one of the fastest among the Mario characters at the very least. But this speed would come at the cost of his jump height, not being able to get too much height out of his jumps. I know this sounds like another Little Mac case, but this actually stems from some of Toad's usual playable appearances in Mario games, stemming all the way back to his very first playable showcase in Super Mario Bros. 2, and even in Super Mario Bros. 3D World, where he was the fastest character, but had the worst jump. And despite his big head, Toad would be a pretty light and somewhat petite character. He'd have 2 jumps and would be able to wall jump. So here's the thing about Toad. We do see them join Mario on his adventures, or even go off on their own adventures on occasion, but for the most part, they're not really all that combat savvy. So as such, I'll be building this moveset themed around a lot of what we've seen the Toads do over the years, whether that's them being a referee, a general helper or handyman, or even just them taking advantage of their shroomy biology. So with that said, getting into his attacks, Toad's jab can be a single hit jab that has him simply thrust his big mushroom head forwards for a quick semi-spammable headbutt. The dash attack can have him do a quick and simple tackle, referencing the body check attack that can be used in Mario Striker's Charge. For the side tilt, this can have Toad use one of the most commonly used tools, a hammer. We see Toads use hammers in recent games like Mario Maker, but hammers and Toads, believe it or not, actually span back pretty far. One of the most common places to get a hammer suit in Super Mario Bros. 3 with some Toad houses, and there's also this one random little occasion where we see Toad attack with a squeaky hammer in the battle games of Mario Party 3. And while he won't be using that squeaky hammer, but instead the hammer that we see Toads use in Mario Maker, this horizontal hammer swing that we see in Mario Party 3 can be his side tilt. It's a kinda spammable disjointed attack that hits fairly hard. The up tilt can make reference to Toad's usual role as a referee, judge, moderator, or whatever, and will have him wave a flag overhead from right to left a few times. While he swings the flag multiple times, getting hit by it at all will automatically launch foes. For his down tilt, this could have Toad use one of his lesser known biological abilities, being able to produce spores from his own head. To add to the is the mushroom his head or his hat debate, I'm pretty certain that it's actually a part of his head, since he is able to drop real spores from it like real mushrooms can. And these dropped spores can grow more mushrooms. Heck, what do you think Toad is shooting out for Peach's neutral special in Smash? Those are mushroom spores. Anyways, for the down tilt, he'll grow a tiny mushroom in front of himself, and the spawning of this mushroom can hurt foes. It doesn't deal a whole lot of damage, but it does deal huge amounts of knockback. Now for Toad's side smash, this can have him use his hammer again, but this time swing that sucker overhead from back to front to smash the ground in front with all of his might. It has some start lag as Toad struggles to swing the hammer, and some end lag as Toad recuperates from the strike, but it deals major damage to foes that get nailed by that hammer. For his up smash, this can make reference to Toad's original role in the Mario Party games as the one who handed out the Power Stars. He'll spawn a star above himself, and the star is what will deal damage to opponents. This is a semi-lingering up smash, as it'll be at its strongest right at the start of the attack, but quickly weakens for the remainder of the move up until it concludes. But low-key, the best part about this attack? You don't need to pay 20 coins to use it. Moving on to his down smash, this can have Toad spawn 2 mushrooms on both of his horizontal sides that grow upwards to deal damage to foes. The attack is disjointed, but does have a little bit of end lag. For the neutral aerial, this can make reference to Toad's generally cowardly nature. Having Toad suddenly get this funny little realization that he's in the air and begin to flail his body and limbs around in a panic. His entire body becomes a hitbox during this attack, and it's at its strongest at the start of the move. His forward air can have Toad attack with his head by doing a front flip, swinging his head forwards from high to low. The back air can make reference to one of Toad's trick maneuvers while riding a bike in Mario Kart 8, specifically the trick where he kicks both of his feet backwards. He'll simply do just that to attack foes towards the back. The up air can have Toad swing his hammer above himself from back to front, and his down air can be a parallel to Mario's down air, which in and of itself is a reference to the spin jump from Super Mario World. Though in this case, it'll be referencing when Toad uses it during their playable appearances in the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Just like Mario, Toad will quickly spin many times horizontally with his arms held out to deal multiple flinching hits of damage before launching the foes with the final hit. Toad can grab with both arms and should obviously be pummeling by headbutting his foe. His forward throw can have him do just as he does for Peach's forward throw in Smash Ultimate, having him headbutt the foe to send them forwards. The back throw can be another equivalent to Mario's, having Toad spin with the foe in hand before throwing them backwards, though Toad would be a little less gracious about it. The up throw can have a bunch of other Toads appear out of nowhere to assist. They'd all throw the foe high into the air in the same way a group of people throw someone up for a celebration. And the down throw could be another Peach throw equivalent, having Toad smash the foe into the ground with his big head. For Toad's neutral special, I think it'd be appropriate to give him his spore counter, the same one that Peach uses for her neutral special. I mean, that is technically Toad's power after all, used to protect his princess from harm. It still works like a basic counter, but there is a major difference with this version of the spore counter. Remember that for Peach's version, after it activates, Toad shoots his spores forwards as a condensed projectile to attack. He more than likely does it like this to avoid hurting Peach, who is directly behind him. But since he's by himself for this moveset, he no longer needs to worry about that. So instead of just shooting the spores into a specific direction, Toad will release the spores as a huge cloud all around himself. This makes the counter a little more reliable to hit with than Peach's, with the only major drawback being that it does lose a bit of its range in the process. For Toad's side special, he could use his favorite item from the Mario Kart series, the Golden Mushroom. I can assume that this is his favorite since it was made into his and Toadette's exclusive special item in Mario Kart Double Dash. Mushrooms in the Mario Kart series give an instant boost of speed, with each mushroom giving one boost, but the Golden Mushroom specifically can give a large amount of speed boosts for a limited amount of time. So by tapping the side special, Toad will use the power of the Golden Mushroom and dash straight forwards at full speed. As for what he'd look like when he's doing this, he can either just be holding the mushroom like we see the characters do in Mario Kart, or his head can turn into the Golden Mushroom and gain the powers that way. I personally prefer the latter myself. Toad dashing forwards does act as an attack, and anyone in Toad's way will be knocked out of the way, being dealt a little bit of damage and knockback. But on top of that, if you press the special button again before the dash animation ends, Toad will burst into another dash, and you can keep doing this over and over and over and over and over again. At least until you fly off the stage into oblivion. You can't turn around when you dash, so you'll need to let Toad come to a full stop and let the attack conclude before you can turn yourself around, or do anything else for that matter. One thing you can do while you're dashing on the ground is a single jump, but that's really about it. It's a great attack for horizontal recovery, as Toad will always fly straight forwards if used in the air, and will only lose a little bit of height whenever a new dash starts, but you need to be cautious, as you'll be moving so fast that if you're not careful, you can end up flying off to your doom. Not unlike those who lose control of their own cart when they get a little too shroom happy in Mario Kart. Now for Toad's up special, this can once again take advantage of Toad's ability to grow new mushrooms from his own spores. He'll spawn a bouncy mushroom underneath himself, causing Toad to be bounced high into the air. When used in the air, the shroom will simply bounce Toad up, and then the shroom will fall downwards, which can be used as a simple gimping tool, much like Sonic's Spring or Banjo's Shock Spring Pad. But when used on the ground, the mushroom will remain there for up to 8 seconds, or until Toad uses the up special again. And for all players, aside from the Toad who spawned it, this shroom will behave very much in the same vein as a bumper, causing foes who touch it at any angle to be bounced away, losing a lot of their mobile control when this happens. If Toad touches it again, it'll just bounce him high into the air again normally. This up special, by the way, won't put Toad into free fall, but he won't be able to use it again until he touches the stage. And finally, for Toad's down special, once again, he'll have another equivalent to Peach. Toad will simply pluck turnips out of the ground, just like he did back in Super Mario Bros. 2. Just like with Peach, once the turnip is pulled out of the ground, it'll then be treated just like an item for Toad to throw or drop. Now, unlike Peach's version, there actually will not be a variety of turnips with different faces for Toad to pull out. They'll be the same kind of turnips that we see Captain Toad use in his game. The chance to pull out items like Mr. Saturn or Bob-Ombs will also be absent, but this doesn't mean that Toad will only be able to pull out turnips. There is one other item that Toad has a very tiny chance of pulling out of the ground, with only a 0.2% chance of it appearing. The Super Pickaxe. This was a power-up that Captain Toad used in his game, a powerful tool that allowed him to break any wall or skull that he so wished. For Smash, if Toad is lucky enough to pull this out, it'll act like a fusion between the hammer item and the Starman, having Toad wildly swing the pick over and over and over again like characters do when they grab the hammer, but he'll also be invincible as he holds it. It only lasts for 6 seconds, but during those 6 seconds, any foe hit by the pick will take massive damage and knockback. It's like a stronger hammer, but it's not as strong as the golden hammer to give a comparison, and also just like the hammer, Toad will only be able to do a single jump while wielding it. Also, only Toad is able to use this item, since he'll automatically be put into the auto swing state as soon as he pulls it out of the ground, and since he's invincible while using it, he can't drop it at all. So if you see a Toad who was lucky enough to pull one of these out, I can only hope that you are playing as a fast enough character to avoid him until it runs out. In any which case, there actually is one more little feature that I'm adding to the down special. I never cared for the idea that Peach's down special only works when she's on the ground. I know that makes sense since she can't exactly pull turnips out of the air, but there was one little thing in Super Mario Bros. 2 that I'm kinda sad to see overlooked. If you stand on an enemy and press the same button that you would to pull a turnip out of the ground, you'd actually pick up that enemy and can throw them at your own leisure just like you would a turnip. You can even do this if the enemy you're standing on is airborne. So I was thinking that for Smash, if you use Toad's down special while in the air and you're directly above a foe, Toad will actually pick them up and automatically toss them forwards. Not only would that make this down special much more versatile, but I can only imagine the amount of chaos that would happen with a move like this to completely shift the momentum of a match. Now, if only Peach and Daisy could do this. I mean, I know everyone would hate it, but it'd certainly make the matches a lot more interesting. For Toad's final smash, he could use arguably one of the most powerful mushrooms in the Mario universe, the Mega Mushroom. Upon activating the smash, Toad will pull out the Mega Shroom and grow to a gargantuan size. From there, he'll begin to jump up and down on the stage, smashing the ground with each landing. He jumps automatically, but you can control where Toad can leap and land by pressing left or right on the control stick. He ignores platforms, and if he falls off the stage, he'll just automatically respawn at the middle of the stage. Any foe who touches Toad's body will be dealt massive damage and knockback, and any poor sap underneath Toad as he stomps on the ground will be buried, and if they're hit while buried, will take double the amount of damage and knockback. This smash, like most others, lasts for 5 seconds, after which Toad will shrink back down to normal size and automatically be moved to the center of the arena. For Toad's colors, this of course was very easy, as Toads all come in a variety of palettes among their species. The default will show Toad in his main colors, with a red spotted head and a blue vest. Then for the next 4 colors, these can use the most commonly seen colors for Toads: blue, yellow, green, and purple. For the next alt, this can be a whole new costume, having Toad don the attire of Captain Toad. You guys are probably wondering where this guy was, huh? I know that a good chunk of you who I counted towards Toad's request wanted Captain Toad specifically, and full confession, he actually was originally going to be the main Toad that I focused on during the early development of this moveset. I ended up deciding against it and going with base Toad though, because Captain Toad by himself really doesn't have a whole lot to him, and would have ended up using the moves that we see from all other Toads anyway. So it just made the most sense for me to take this approach, but I feel like he still works just fine as an alternate costume. And as for how he'd be able to jump around with his backpack, shut up! Jokes aside, remember I made Toad's inherent lack of jumping ability already a part of this moveset, so just think of Captain Toad's lack of jumping as another thing that inspired this gimmick. In any which case, moving on to the 7th alt, this can be another alternate costume, replacing Toad with the second most popular Toad of their kind. You guessed it, Toadette! Toadette is one that a lot of people were probably expecting to be an Echo Fighter, but honestly, there's really no need. Toad and Toadette are borderline the same in terms of body type and personality, and anything that Toad does, Toadette would also very much do. So just a simple costume is fine. And speaking of which, the final costume can also be Toadette, but this time she's wearing her own captain's outfit, becoming Captain Toadette. Now for the stage intro, it can be kind of like what the Villager and Isabel's stage intros are, except Toad will be exiting out of a Toad house, just like the ones we see in both Super Mario Bros. 3 as well as the new Super Mario Bros. Games. For taunts, Toad's first can show him jumping while he does a peace sign. This is a slightly obscure reference coming from the game Wario's Woods, where Toad does this very animation whenever he wins a match. The next can show Toad flipping upside down to spin on his head before bouncing right side up again, and his final can have Toad jump up and down a few times before doing a little pose. This references the general animations that Toad usually has in the Mario Party games after something good happens. And finally, for victory animations, the first can show Toad being thrown up and down into the air by other Toads in celebration. The second can be a reference to the Captain Toad victory animation, where Toad will clumsily spin and pose with a Power Star in hand. And the final, and my personal favorite, can at first show a tied-up bag on screen until the bag ruffles about and flies open with Toad coming out of said bag. And when he does, he'll say his most iconic line: "Sorry, but our princess is in another castle." Truly, the worst thing for anybody to hear after losing a match. And that does it for What If Toad Was in Smash? A lot of people have been wanting poor Toad to be in Smash for a very long time. Even longer than those who've wanted Waluigi, believe it or not. And like Waluigi, it looks like Toad probably won't be getting in anytime soon, staying relegated to Peach and Daisy's bodyguards for a little while longer. But that's okay. Toad has stolen the hearts of so many people, and even if they're not playable in Smash, I think it's safe to say that the Toads will be sticking around for a very long time to come. Anyways, if you liked what you saw and would like to see even more characters be given possible Smash movesets, be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to support the show and help me be able to make more content for you guys while you also get some perks for doing so, you can click the join button either below the video or on my main page to become a sponsor for my channel. I'd really appreciate anything that can be contributed. And of course, if you have a character that you'd like to see be given a possible Smash moveset, leave a comment down below or contact me on Twitter at BrawlFail1 on Twit. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching!